Welcome to Inside Auto Podcast, where we feature everyone and anyone you'd want to talk to in and out of the automotive industry.
Ilana Shabtay here, host of Inside Auto Podcast, where we interview top dealers, GMs, marketers, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders in and out of the automotive industry. And before we introduce today's guest, this episode is sponsored by Fullpath.com. Fullpath is automotive's leading customer data and experience platform, CDXP. Fullpath enables dealers to turn their first-party data into lifelong customers by unifying siloed data sources and leveraging that data to create exceptional, hyper-personalized customer experiences. To learn more, visit Fullpath.com. All right, today we're welcoming Jordan Cox with us. Jordan, how are you?
I am great, Ilana. Thank you so much for having me on here today. It's just going to be so awesome to hang out with you for the next 15 or 20 minutes.
I'm excited. Your energy is just so contagious. I'm excited for this.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So Jordan is digital marketing manager at Gates Automotive, a prominent automotive retail group located in northern Indiana. With a strong passion for innovative marketing strategies, Jordan plays a role in the company's success by overseeing various aspects of digital marketing, including social media, content creation, web design, user experience, branding, and event creation. We'll get into all that. That's awesome. One of his notable achievements includes the creation and production of the podcast Car Talk, presented by Gates Automotive. So that's really cool. We have a podcast host on this episode, and who knows?
On the pod.
Maybe he'll ask me a question or two. I don't know.
We'll get to that part. Yeah.
Awesome. And he just launched his latest series, Hot Takes. Or you're going to launch it later this month.
That's right. So we're launching that this week. In fact, the first episode we're producing is literally just in a couple hours. So I'm super excited about it.
That is awesome. And you can find out more at gateshottakes.com, which is
right.
Very catchy. I appreciate it. So thanks again for joining us.
Thank you, Ilana.
It's been exciting to just get to know you through LinkedIn and, through mutual friends. So really looking forward to the conversation. Before we get started into like all the things that you're doing, which is so much, can you tell us how you got into automotive?
Oh, man, that's a great question. So it probably would have been about 10 years ago. I was with my best friend at the time, which, we grew up together and all this stuff. And his dad was a sales manager at an independent location where they did German vehicles there. And what he did that really attracted me to that, and this is a very bad initial impression of automotive, but he got to drive a demo home every night. And of course, you're 14 or 15, you're like, oh, dude, that is so cool. You get to see all these cars all the time and experience that. Yeah. And again, that was like such a bad first impression of that, like when you have a desire to that. But after like getting into it and kind of like learning more, I was like, man, can I work for you one day? Right. So down the road, many years, I got my first job with him in automotive sales. So that was very exciting to do that. And just the people aspect of it, connecting with others, and I guess helping someone move to what they want to accomplish was just so much fun. And it was such a passion that I found and discovered.
That's really exciting. That's cool. I love how most people that I interview, they like fall into automotive. It's not necessarily into
they fall in backwards. Yeah.
They want to go into automotive, but somehow they fall in, and then you're stuck. Like you can never get out of this.
Yeah.
And it's only getting, more exciting for us. Lots of things.
Yeah.
Automotive. Now, when it comes to, tell us a little bit about your podcast and your series before we get into like marketing stuff that you're doing at the dealership, which I'm really looking forward to hearing as well.
Yeah, well, thanks, Ilana. So about a year and a half ago, we had the desire to help tell our story to our community. And there were a lot of different ways we can do that. But what we settled on was creating a podcast and then also doing employee spotlight videos in conjunction with each other. So the podcast in season 1, so that was a year and a half ago, what we would do is long form organic conversation. So I kid you not, it's like Joe Rogan style.
Yeah.
So there were times where they were almost 2 hours on some of these episodes. Wow. And we were able to not only leverage that with on a podcasting platform, but also we could take, small bits and pieces of that. So let's say someone was talking about the difference in trim levels on a Toyota Highlander. Now we can take that, 2 to 3 minute segment and now spin the content and create media that way. So that was always really cool to do that. Something else that we did, through the organic conversation, a lot of times I always tried to focus on why that person was the hero of the episode. So it's cool to kind of go through that entire storytelling process, discover what kind of struggles they had, and then also how they were able to overcome that. I'm a huge sucker for stories. So that's really how it started. So we started producing that, and we had a lot of engagement.
No, that's cool, because you could also take the transcription of a 2-hour episode and then use that for SEO.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Exactly.
Wow.
And again, you make that salesperson or that employee, the person on your team, the hero of that episode, and they are so much more likely to share that with their own community, whether it's on social media or just in conversation. I mean, they love being a part of this. It was just a huge thing. And I think that's what made it so successful, was that it was our team, it was real people, and it was telling their story. And that's why we were able to have over 460 hours consumed in that very first month that we launched it. It was nuts.
That is nuts. Congratulations on that.
Well, thanks. And it's not something special I did. It was the people that were involved. That's what really made it successful. So huge props to them and huge shout out to them.
That's awesome. And then tell us a little bit about what we should expect with hot takes. If you can share,
Sure.
I want Inside Auto podcast. Yeah. We're breaking the news today. So
that's right. Yeah. So actually, real quick, I want to touch on season 2 real quick for the podcast. So we actually, and I forgot about that. So on season 2, we went ahead and took it down. Instead of doing like a 2-hour episode, we really made it more structured and down to like the 10 to 15 minute mark tops.
Okay.
So this allows us to have a guest on there, talk for 4 to 8 minutes, take a short commercial break, and then go into a news segment where we talk about automotive news that matters to the end consumer. So whether it's GM having robotaxi issues in San Francisco, or maybe it's about Wells Fargo, who got fined $4.7 billion. We would like to talk about the automotive news and how they can how we can help get that information to the end consumer. So that's what season 2 looked like. And then, Ilana, your question was, what the heck is hot takes?
Yeah,
what can you expect from it?
Really, I think that structure is really unique, and
Sure.
It's interesting how you can, like, I always talk about how you can just, everyone consumes news very differently. And
Sure.
today it's like, I mean, if you look at like the typical newsletter today and a newsletter from 3 years ago, it's completely different. And so I really like the aspect of using podcasts and the guest and their specialty interesting to them, and then what the consumer might be interested in to consume news. So that's really unique. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, of course, my pleasure. And just like you said, if you bring that guest in and you really get their inside perspective on that, we have found that to be so effective. And all you do is really just provide the color of the conversation going on.
That's wonderful. Okay, hot takes. Give us some hot takes, Dave.
All right, you ready for some hot takes? Here we go. So this is a spinoff of a YouTube series called Hot Ones with Sean Evans by First We Feast. And we're basically taking the same exact structure of what they've already done and they've proven it works. And we're basically making the anti-interview with local community leaders within our area. So here's an example. We will have on TV personalities from the basic news stations, the mayor of South Bend. We also have the Elkhart Chamber of Commerce president that's coming on, people that are just influential in our area. And what we do is we ask them extremely, questions that they like that are very personable, that they know. So we actually do like heavy research on these guys ahead of time. So we know their lives up and down. Some people it's harder than others because some are ghosts on social media or in the news, but there's a lot of great content out there so you can really help tell their story. So again, it's not about us, it's about that guest. And as we go through it, so we're going to eat wings and they progressively get hotter as we go.
Oh, so now I understand what you've been posting about, right? Because you're posting on LinkedIn about wings. I'm trying to figure out what's on.
Yeah.
So it just gets spicier, like the content and the wings get spicier.
Exactly.
Love it.
Yeah, and Ilana, you'll see this in the intro part of it, but Hot Takes is the series with hot wings and even hotter questions.
That's amazing. Wait, but what? So the anti-interview, though, like what's? Yeah. Because you know all the information already, and you're what's the?
Yeah. So the anti side of it is so many people that are, here's a good example. The Chamber of Commerce president for the South Bend area, we did invite him, and we're waiting to get a confirmation for that. But he's so used to going on TV series, on other local interviews that way. And it's very structured. So it's like, hey, here's 5 questions we're going to talk about with your upcoming project. And that's it. That way it's more about sharing the information that's going on. And I think what they're missing is the personal story behind it. So the Chamber of Commerce president, we want to make it so that we actually get to know him personally so that we can see what made him who he is today. And that's what I mean by the anti-interview, because that's not what the interview's about. It's about like information or a release coming up or something like that.
Oh, that's really cool. So are you co-hosting that with someone, or is that all you?
I'll host it. We do have a producer that's on site with us. So we will have some extra production staff here and there. But man, it's going to be so much fun. We did a, so you probably saw, we did a test run last week with the sauces. Yeah.
These wings, you didn't know what he's doing with these wings. Now I know. Hey, oh my God.
Yeah. So it's very crazy. Our producer that we have, and then also a relative of hers, we went over and we did a test run of the wings. Now, I am not a spicy wing guy, so I had to get through it to make sure that I'm putting other people in the hot seat, and I know that they can accomplish it too. But man, it's going to be a great conversation that we come up with.
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. I love that. I love the like gimmicky stuff. I feel like it's going to get viral. Awesome. Well, I wish you lots of luck. I'll be tuning in.
Thank you. Yeah.
Now, pivoting back to the dealership. So, Gates, how many stores do you oversee when it comes to stores?
So we have 4 sales and service centers. We've also got a body shop. And then here in the next 2 months, we're actually opening up another Chevy store. That is a brand new point. That'll be open probably next month sometime, but we'll have a grand opening for that in September. So we've got that 2 Chevy. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
By your hands?
2 Chevy points. Yeah, I know. And then a Toyota. And then we've got 2 used points. So we've got 5 main retailers.
And I'm assuming, well, tell us a little bit about your marketing strategy. I like talking about this on this podcast because every dealership comes and they all have their different strategies, especially when they're overseeing a few stores, right? Like, do they have the same strategy for every single store and the same vendors and the same technologies, or do they really have like a per store strategy? Tell us a little bit about how you approach the marketing for Gates Automotive.
Sure. And that's a great question because, people are either at a small store and they have to take everything in-house, or they're in a group and they do everything centralized, or they're in a group and they let their stores make independent decisions if they're the right size. And what we do is we try to centralize as much of that strategy as possible. So all of the merchandising, all of the site development, all of that user experience is extremely centralized. That way we know it's consistent between all of our brands. Now, the reason that we do that is because all of our stores are so close together. So if you drive from the 2 farthest stores, the total drive time is going to be about 25 minutes. So they're all in the same market. They're all very close together. And I kid you not, there are customers who will go through multiple of our stores, not intentionally, but because we have the inventory everywhere. So we want that to be as consistent as possible, vendor-wise, messaging-wise, and also process-wise.
Right. And also brand, right? You want someone to walk into your store and be like, oh, I'm in a Gates store. Got it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow. Have you done any drastic changes in your marketing strategy, let's say over the past 12 months?
Yeah. That's an excellent question, because I think a lot of dealers need to pivot to what is upcoming. Now, if you look at what we were doing 2 and 3 years ago, we were doing the same thing even 20 years ago, as far as messaging, as far as how we do it. It was all sale-based, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I think we need to supplement it with general branding. So that's really why we came up with a solution like our podcast series. A lot of people want to do a podcast, just do a podcast, and there has to be a bigger strategy behind that and a solution for it. Exactly. And as you know, right? Yeah. People are like, oh, I want to do a podcast. What equipment should I buy? And I'm like, how about you go do it on your phone, get through a few episodes, and then I'll tell you exactly what equipment to buy. Because you need to get through that.
I just appreciate that.
Yeah. But back to like the messaging in our marketing, 3 years ago, it was all sale-based. And I think that dealers need to pivot to telling their value proposition and what their unique selling points are. So if they can bring the value to that through their messaging and through their marketing, then it only makes it that much more effective. So we've tried to supplement as much of that as possible while still doing our sale inventory. So a few examples are, we've really been experimenting with name, image, and likeness availability with NCAA. Last year, we did a meet and greet event with a local Notre Dame football player, which was a huge success. We were able to get foot traffic of 250 people. We were able to get even more branding out of that through social content creation. And I really think that that's a big strategy. And a lot of people think of NIL just as like sports or appearances or putting someone in a commercial, but it's bigger than that. And that's why we're doing hot takes, is that there are communities out there that follow these people that if we can make that guest, that person, the hero of that episode, that then we can reach that audience. So we're going in with a big hand first. Yeah.
Relatable. That's all anyone really wants. So
exactly. And that's what these people want too. So that's why it's easy to do a collaboration with them. They want to be able to get into that. And, some don't realize it yet, but I guarantee that this will be the most intriguing interview that they've ever done. That's what our goal is. That's
admirable. But just like what you're talking about with the sales messaging and then shifting to the brand and marketing messaging, that even resonates with, me and what I'm doing at Fullpath. We just changed our whole strategy as well. Like 2 years ago, last year, we were all about the sales messaging, discounts here and there. And then any actual value we wanted to provide for dealers was gated. So any case study, any white paper, you had to give your details to get now. And that's typically called lead generation. And we've totally changed that to demand generation, where we're opening up everything. We want to provide as much value as possible. And when someone's ready and they understand our brand and they understand, the challenge and the solution, they're going to come to us. And I think that's kind of the parallel on the tech side, but I'm really happy to see that dealers are also going down, especially Gates Automotive is going down that route. Cause I think that's really how consumers shop today. It's all about loyalty.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about getting that value ahead of time and then earning their business through that so that they know where to come to. And especially with car marketing stats. So we say that at any given time, 2 to 3% of the market is in the market for a vehicle.
Right.
So what about the other 98% of your messaging if you're doing saturation? You're really not reaching the right people at the right time with the right message. So what if you pivot away from that and do exactly what you're doing at Fullpath, Ilana, where you're giving that value ahead of time and you're giving that those details, those white papers, all of that value. It works that way.
Yep. Create those customers for life all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So I would highly recommend that other dealers do the same thing. And I'm not saying that we're doing it perfect. Do not take it that way. But right now we're in a point where we can experiment with that and we can figure out what works and what doesn't. And with our podcast, that has been such a hit that we want to continue doing that. We have employees on. We are going to start transitioning to having outside guests on as well with that. So maybe Ilana, in the future, you can be on our Car Talk podcast.
I would love to. It's fun.
Yeah. Well, Ilana, I've got a few questions for you now, and I know we were joking ahead of time. Yes.
We're out of time. So.
Oh no. We got to do this real quick. So
all right, let's.
It was so. All right, yeah, let's do it. So we were joking ahead of time about me interviewing you, and now we're making it a real thing. So Ilana, going through some of your history, you've been at Fullpath for a while now. So if I understand it correctly, you started in 2013, and you started there when there were only 3 other people that were at Fullpath. At the time, it was Auto Lead Star. So you guys kind of pivoted before you weren't necessarily in automotive. What made you guys decide to move and focus purely on automotive?
Okay, well, here we go. I'm getting interviewed on my own podcast.
About time.
Great research. I started, it was 2015 when I started. There were 4 or 5 people. I think I was the 5th or 6th person here.
Yeah.
And we were outside of automotive. It was a company called 40 Nuggets. Actually, 40 Nuggets is still technically our parent company's name.
Wow.
And we worked in SMBs. So any small to medium business that wanted conversion optimization, really smart AI powered. And at the time it was pop-ups were all the rage. So we didn't call them pop-ups, we called them overlays, but they were basically pop-ups. And it was great. We learned a lot, but we really needed, the space is completely saturated. We really needed to find a vertical. And in the vertical, it was important for us to have low tech so that we can have a high impact. At the time, automotive is not low tech, but in the sense of where we were coming from, it felt like it wasn't as saturated. And then high lead value, because that's what we were really focused on at the time. So there were a few other industries that came in to play, and then automotive just made the most sense. And 2016, here I was fresh off the boat, going to NADA, having no idea anything about automotive. And it was the most insane experience ever. And I never looked back.
Yeah, that's awesome. And with you and your history, so you went and studied psychology, and then you spent some time in the Army. So how did you even make that transition at that point to go from being in psychology, having a background in the Army? How did you know to go to 40 Nuggets?
So it's a great question. I did a lot of marketing in college, and I worked in a few businesses as well. So I knew I was interested in that. And then when I was coming out of the Army, which is you're getting a kick out of this, aren't you?
I love it. I love this. Everybody gets to meet Ilana Shabtay for once on my own podcast.
Yeah, this is really, you're just going to crop this all out. No, just kidding.
Yeah, that's right.
When I was getting in the Army, I really needed to I really was ready to just find something here in Israel. Yeah. The Army is mandatory. So it was important for me to go through that. I learned a lot about just personal growth and instruction and all sorts of things. But I got introduced to the CEO, Aaron Horowitz, through an investor at the time who I had worked for in a previous capacity. So that was really cool. Again, 8 years later, here I am. It was actually literally June 2015. So it's been 8 years exactly.
Wow. That's awesome. Congratulations on 8 years. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. It's been really an incredible ride.
Yeah.
The growth and the pivot to automotive, and, we went global, and so many really exciting things. Changed our name a few times. We're very good at that. So.
Yeah, you are. And you've nailed it this last time. Fullpath, start to finish. You're hitting everything.
Yeah.
What would you say was one of the highlights of your career during those 8 years that you've been there?
Oh, gosh. Oh, my God. Highlights. I actually have to say leading the rebrand from Auto Leadstar to Fullpath was a huge highlight.
That's cool.
Because we were already over 100 people at the company. We have over 1,000 clients. It was the biggest project I'd ever managed. And it was a really big deal for us. I mean, we had to go out and we had to figure out, okay, how are we going to make sure that no detail is lost? All the communication is there. Clients aren't all of a sudden canceling us because they're like, well, it's Fullpath.
Yeah, exactly.
We had to think of every single scenario, and it was really exciting. And also, it was just really cool to see how it really re-energized the company, which was exciting.
Yeah.
And that was just a huge highlight.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, it seems like even with that rebrand, it's like a fresh breath that's going throughout your company. And huge props to you for leading that charge and making that happen, because I kid you not, 1 week it was Auto Leadstar. The next week it was Fullpath, and I was with someone that next week that was already in Fullpath gear. So that's amazing.
I love it. Shout out to whoever that was.
But awesome job for leading the charge.
Yeah, I had an amazing marketing team and
you're right.
Team and product team, and obviously it wasn't just me, but it was really an incredible process. So
that's awesome. Huge shout out to your team for doing that. That's amazing.
Thanks. Wow. Okay. So Jordan, do you want to just come and co-host this podcast with me? Because you're really good at this. We can just go on and on.
That's right.
But this is fun. I have to give it to you. This is your idea. I appreciate you flipping the script a bit.
I had to. It was a challenge.
It was fun. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was really fun hanging out with you, and thanks for sharing your knowledge. I'm sure I'll have you back on the podcast. It's been really fun.
Man, Ilana, thank you so much for having me on this today. And I look forward to connecting with you more in the future and even doing some collaboration stuff. I'm looking forward to that. That's the future. That's what it is.
Yeah, I love it. For those who like this episode, please tune in, InsideAutoPodcast.com. You can find us on all your favorite streaming channels. Thanks again, Jordan.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Inside Auto Podcast. Check out our other episodes with top entrepreneurs and industry leaders.